In today's video, I'm going over 5 signs someone may be emotionally immature. I'll also share how to respond when you notice these behaviors, whether it's in someone else or at times in yourself. I'm a licensed therapist, and part of my job is helping people navigate complicated dynamics with emotionally immature individuals and sometimes recognize those patterns in their own reactions. That being said, let's dive in. The first sign someone may be emotionally immature is they constantly deflect blame. You bring something up, something they clearly did, and suddenly you're in a completely different conversation. You say, hey, when you raised your voice earlier, it felt hurtful. And now they're talking about how you didn't remind them about dinner, or how you always pick bad times to talk, or how they were just trying to be honest. You ask a question and the conversation turns sideways. You try to clarify and suddenly you're defending yourself. Deflection usually has little to do with facts. It's about their inability to tolerate being wrong. For many emotionally immature people, accountability isn't just uncomfortable, it's unbearable. Not because they're malicious, but because it bruises their ego. Shame kicks in, and for some, being wrong feels like their entire identity is under attack, so the brain rewrites the story to protect itself. That doesn't excuse it, but it explains the behavior. You'll notice when they're caught, even over something simple like being late, they get weirdly elaborate. Details pile up and they come up with every excuse in the book. They may turn themselves into the victim of your expectations. This is because they don't want resolution. They want relief. Relief from shame, from guilt, and from any threat to their self-image. So what can you do? Stop chasing logic with someone who isn't ready to hear it. That urge to explain, pause it. Ask yourself, am I trying to be understood by someone who can't even listen right now? You might say to them, I want us to be able to have a constructive conversation, and that means taking ownership. I'm not sensing that right now, so I'm going to pause right here. That's not punishment. That's clarity. You're naming the roadblock and refusing to keep driving in circles. Boundaries matter here, not dramatic ones, just firm ones. You might say, I'm open to continuing when we're both taking responsibility, but if it stays like this, I'm going to have to step away. You're not asking for permission, you're stating your terms. And the hardest part? Following through. Boundaries don't mean anything if your actions don't match your words. If they spiral or blame or guilt you, don't escalate. Don't over-explain. Don't play referee. Just end the conversation. You're not rude for doing that. You're being respectful to yourself. When you're dealing with someone who's emotionally immature, you often find yourself doing the emotional heavy lifting, adjusting your tone, softening your words, tiptoeing to avoid setting them off. But the dynamic doesn't change unless you stop doing that. When you hold steady and stop managing their reactions for them, it puts the responsibility back where it belongs. That might feel unfamiliar to them, but that is part of the work. The second sign someone may be emotionally immature is they get very defensive. You bring up something small, maybe you say, I felt a little dismissed in that conversation, or I would have appreciated a heads up before the plan changed. Instead of hearing you out, they get defensive, they cross their arms, they raise their voice, or accuse you of making a big deal out of nothing. It's not about the feedback anymore. It's about protecting their ego. Even the mildest comment feels like a threat, and they react like they are under attack. Defensiveness doesn't always look like anger. Sometimes it's mockery, a forced laugh, or intellectualizing everything to dodge emotions. But the thing that stays the same, your concern, gets ignored. And somehow you end up feeling like the bad guy for saying anything at all. What's really going on is this. Emotionally immature people don't hear feedback as information, they hear it as rejection. No matter how careful you are, they interpret it as, I'm bad. So instead of listening, they put up walls to protect their ego. They're not defending connection, they're avoiding the vulnerability that real connection requires. And you can't repair anything with someone who can't tolerate discomfort. Repair means staying in the moment long enough to actually understand each other. If they constantly get argumentative, the conversation never gets to the part where healing actually happens. So what can you do? Start gently, but don't walk on eggshells. You could say, I want to bring something up. I want this to go well, and I just want to be understood. But don't think it needs to be perfect. Many times their reaction isn't always about your delivery. It's about their fragility. The more you tiptoe or over-explain, the more you teach them that their defensiveness is your responsibility. It is not. You're allowed to speak plainly kindly, not harshly, just clearly. If you say, I felt dismissed, that's not an attack, it's a feeling. If someone treats your feelings like a threat, that's not yours to fix. When defensiveness shows up, staying calm without backing down is key. You might say, I'm not saying you're a bad person, I'm saying I felt hurt. You're not soothing their ego. You're making it clear this is about impact, not identity. And if they still get defensive or accuse you of nitpicking or twisting the conversation, you can decide if it's worth continuing. Sometimes it's not. And just like before, boundaries matter. A real boundary isn't dramatic. It might sound like this. This feels more about defending than listening, so I'm going to step away for now. That's it. No lecture, no chasing. You're stating what's happening and exiting the loop before it drains you. The third sign that someone is emotionally immature is they guilt trip. They don't ask for what they need, they just make you feel bad until you give in. It's sometimes subtle, a loud sigh, or it's fine, I guess I'll just do it myself. Sometimes it's more direct. If you really cared about me, you would have done the dishes. What makes it immature isn't the emotion. It's using that emotion to pressure you into meeting an unspoken need. Guilt tripping isn't honest communication. It's control without vulnerability. Saying what they want means risking a no. So instead, they use guilt, which is quieter than a demand, but often more effective. And then you start monitoring your behavior, triple checking plans, over apologizing, agreeing to things you don't want just to avoid their disappointment. If you grew up around this, it can feel normal. You learn to sense when someone was upset and make it your job to fix it. So when someone sighs, goes quiet, or makes a pointed comment, your instinct is to jump in and smooth it over, even if they never directly ask for anything. But when you start responding to guilt rather than clear communication, the relationship stops being built on mutual understanding and starts being driven by fear. So, what do? Stop treating tone and subtext like real communication. Guilt trips rely on your willingness to fill in the blanks, apologize for things they never named, and fix problems they never voiced. You break that cycle by asking for clarity. It sounds like you're upset. Can you help me understand what you need? If they won't, if they say, forget it, or I shouldn't have to tell you, then you stay calm and say, I'm not going to keep guessing. If you want to talk, I'm here. And just as important, you don't reward the guilt trip. Don't drop everything. Don't over-apologize. Let them sit in the discomfort of not getting their way through guilt. If the relationship can grow, they will become more direct in their communication. Now, if the guilt comes from someone close, you might feel a strong pull to fix it. But sometimes the work is learning to sit with the guilt without rushing to make it go away. When you do that, you stop fearing guilt, and you learn that it's just a feeling, not a command. That's where boundaries come in. You might say, if you want something, I need you to ask directly. I'm happy to talk, but I won't keep responding to guilt or pressure. Then you hold that line. No justifying, no over-explaining, just hold it. If they double down and say, wow, I guess I can't have feelings around you, just stay calm, steady, and say, you can feel whatever you want, but I'm not going to engage in this kind of communication. Emotionally immature people often confuse expressing emotion with controlling outcomes. They believe their feelings should shape your response, and when they don't, they accuse you of being cold or uncaring. But you're not. You can stay warm without surrendering your boundaries. You can care without giving in, and you can step back when a relationship starts to feel like a performance to keep someone else regulated. Guilt is one of the most powerful tools emotionally immature people use, not because it's loud, but because it's quiet. It makes you question yourself, it blurs your needs and theirs, and the solution isn't being colder, it's being clearer. Clear language, clear limits, and no more guessing games. The fourth sign someone may be emotionally immature is they're passive-aggressive. They won't tell you what's wrong, they'll just make you feel it. They leave the room without saying goodbye. They make a sarcastic comment just quiet enough that you're not sure if they're joking. They forget to include you in a group text, or they may slam cabinets. You feel the resentment immediately, but they haven't said anything you can actually respond to. That's what makes passive-aggressive behavior so destabilizing. You can sense the hostility, but there's there's nothing to grab onto. This isn't someone having a bad day. It's a pattern of someone being incapable of expressing anger. They're either too afraid or too avoidant to be direct. Passive aggressiveness often comes with quiet moral superiority. They see themselves as more composed, above the conflict, like you're the one who can't let things go. But underneath that exterior is often contempt, the belief that they're better than you. That belief justifies their behavior. They hint at, I'm not angry, I just don't do drama, but they're actually angry. It's a mixed message, and nothing gets resolved because you can't resolve what no one is willing to say out loud. Emotionally immature people often fear confrontation, but that doesn't mean they aren't angry. It just means they express it in whatever way protects them the most. Sarcasm is safer than honesty. Silence is safer than saying, that hurt me. Real emotional maturity sounds like, I was upset when you canceled, I felt left out. Passive-aggressive people, on the other hand, want to vent resentment without doing the vulnerability part, so they stick to ambiguity. They keep everything just unclear enough that they can deny it later. You can't chase clarity from someone who's being unclear on purpose. That's the trap. You ask, are you upset? They say, no. You ask again, use a softer tone, reference something from last week. But all that does is send a message. I'll work harder to understand your emotions than you will to express them. And that is exhausting for you. You're not a mind reader, and it's not your job to get the truth out of someone hiding it. What you can do is stop reinforcing the pattern. When they say, must be nice to have all this free time, you don't smile politely. You say, if there's something you want to talk about, I'm open to hearing it directly. But that kind of comment doesn't feel respectful. If they go cold, you can say, I'm noticing a change in your tone. If something's wrong, I'd rather talk about it directly. I'm not going to sit in silence trying to guess. If they deflect, I'm not mad, just tired. You don't push. Okay, I just wanted to name that something felt different. I'm open to talk whenever you are. And then you stop. You don't keep digging. If the behavior continues after that, it's not miscommunication, it's control. They're choosing emotional safety over relational honesty, and you can't fix a relationship that only functions when one person swallows everything they feel. The fifth sign someone may be emotionally immature is they weaponize their emotions. It starts with something small. You bring up an issue, something that matters to you, and within seconds, the focus is no longer on what you said. It's on how upset they are. They cry or shut down or spiral, and now you're the one feeling guilty for speaking at all. It doesn't always feel manipulative. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes it feels like genuine distress. But if this happens often, if every hard conversation ends with their emotions dominating the space, it's no longer just emotion, it's control. Their tactic is simple. Make the emotional intensity so high that the other person backs off. And if you're someone who grew up around big emotions, you probably do. You've been trained to keep the peace, to soothe first and speak second. In other words, it works. That's why they keep doing it. Now, not everyone who cries in a conflict is being manipulative, but someone who consistently flips the moment, changes the script, and never comes back to what you said, then there's a deeper issue there. So, what do? You stop responding to the emotional intensity as if it's more important than the issue. You don't yell back, you don't shut down, you don't twist yourself trying to fix it. You stay calm, you hold your line, you say, this feels intense and I want to talk, but not like this. Then you step back, not to punish, not to withdraw, but to stop the game from continuing. And if they never return to the original issue, if they never ask what you needed, they never circle back, never take ownership, believe that. Believe what that behavior tells you. You're allowed to care without giving in. You're allowed to feel for someone without letting their pain cancel yours. And you're absolutely allowed to want a conversation where both people stay present and both people matter. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you, and see you in the next one.